All right, welcome to the live stream. We're just getting set up. We'll get fully underway in a bit. In the meantime, feel free to leave a comment. Let me know that you're here. I'm still setting up, so we'll get started officially in 10 minutes. But tonight, we're going to be looking at some coins and debating whether or not the coins should be sent in for grading. And that's always an interesting topic. And so I have a few that already graded that we can look as comparison. We'll take a look at a few raw coins. What we have is a 1871 seeded $50 minted in San Francisco underneath the main microscope. I have an overhead camera looking at a variety of coins, including a Walking Liberty $50, a Standing Liberty quarter, and 2 Mercury Dimes. They're all the same basic era of US coins. And I have high-end graded versions. And again, the goal is here to talk, debate, chat on whether or not it makes sense to have these particular coins sent in for grading. I'm getting the chat set up right now. So hang on a moment. Because right now I can't see if anyone is on. And I'm trying to get this set up so that I can respond to everyone. So let's see here. Okay, so I got the live chat up. And I'm hoping the streaming is working. So right now, really what I'm doing is confirming that everything's set up and ready to go. So please bear with me for a moment. If this is the first time you're visiting my channel, thank you for visiting. I do videos on coin roll hunting. That includes going to a bank, basically getting a box of circulated coins. Hopefully they're circulated. And then opening up the rolls of coins to go through them to look for cool finds. These include things like varieties, error coins, coins that should not be in circulation anymore because they have not been produced by the mint for quite a while. And then they also include finding coins that I need for my own collection. In addition to that, I'm a coin dealer, so I do live streams from coin shows. I do coin appraisals, so you'll see videos of those things. We talk about collecting coins on this channel, so you'll see videos focused on that, coin history, looking at different coins, and occasionally we'll do some currency hunting looking for cool serial numbers. Tonight, though, we're going to be talking about when is it appropriate to send in a coin to get professionally graded. And maybe the term appropriate is probably not the right term. Really, we're going to talk about strategies and basic principles. And then hopefully get a few folks on to maybe we'll debate, because I have a bunch of coins that, frankly, I think would be a good idea to talk about, 2 of which I am thinking of sending in. The others, I'm not entirely sure. Now, I am a member of Pcgs. You can see Pcgs graded coins such as this, sorry for the shaking, Mercury Dime, this Standing Liberty quarter, and this Walking Liberty $50. And I participate in PCGS's, that's the Professional Coin Grading Services, something called a set registry, where you basically keep track of the coins that you have graded and you try to complete sets. I'm working on a US type collection. I'd like to have one of each type of US coin, and as high of a condition that I can afford. As you can see here, we have a number of coins that are MS66, which is very high, uncirculated, on a scale of 0 to 70. And this has got full bell lines. Oh, sorry, it's out of range here. This Mercury Dime has full full bands on the back, not bell lines. I'm thinking of Franklin half dollar. This one has a full head, and I'll put it underneath the microscope a little bit later so we can take a look at it. And this does not have, this Walking Liberty half dollar does not have that type of distinction to it. But things like full bands and full head speak to more scarcity and more desirability. In PCGS's registry, you get more points. There's also other coin grading services. Another one that's quite popular is National Coin Guarantee, NGC. I don't have coins presently from NGC, but I do pick them up from time to time when I'm acquiring a collection, particularly for the purpose of resale. I tend to like the PCGS style holder a little bit better. I think the clear presentation I find more attractive, but there are different tastes, different people like different things, and that's okay. All right, let me see here. I'm trying to get, as I said before, the chat queued up. Let me open up get into YouTube for a moment, and I just want to make sure that the chat is working okay. You might hear some background noise in a minute, so if you do, just bear with me. Microscope, and we're going to take a look at this Mercury Dime. And as we mentioned, it's MS66 full bell lines. This is a 1929. We'll put the dime underneath the microscope so you can take a look at some of the features. Now we'll see the full bands in a moment. But what we'll do here is I have the PCGS website up as well, as you guys can see. I'm looking at the US coin prices PCGS price guide feature, which is on their site. I'm actually using the Mac application that they have in the App Store. But we'll take a look at the Mercury Dime, and we're going to look up the value service for grading. So that's roughly, I believe, $30, $35. Their current grading costs are listed on their website. But let's say for all intents and purposes, we're going to use a $30 cost assumption for getting it graded. Well, that means that the coin should be worth, in my mind, probably 3 times the cost of getting it graded. If the purpose for getting it graded is to authenticate and resell. Of course, now you might choose to send a coin to get graded because you just want to get it authenticated. You're not planning on reselling it. Or you might be a member of their registry set collecting, in which case you may be sending it in to get graded because you want it graded, just to add to your registry collection. Grading does have 2 facets, I believe: authentication, grading for valuation, because I kind of look at those as very connected, and preservation. Getting them sealed in a plastic holder is one way of preserving a coin. It's not foolproof, but it does certainly protect the coin from damage as well as elements. Now, coins can still corrode in these plastic holders. They're not perfectly sealed, vacuum sealed, or airtight, but they are sealed. And unless you're putting coin under extreme conditions, I believe it does offer good preservation protection. But as a coin dealer, and if you're buying a coin and your intent is to potentially resell it over time, you don't want the value of the coin effectively being drained away by the cost of grading it. So for example, if you send a coin and spend $30 to get it graded, and let's assume that you paid, let's say we're talking about an uncirculated coin, MS60 or higher. Let's say you paid $20 for the coin. Let's say you just paid silver value for the coin. Right now, silver value, because the price of silver varies, but we're looking at around $1.60, $1.75. For simple math, just to say it's $2, which is probably on the high end of silver value, and silver's not at that point. But let's say you spend $2 just silver value, you spend $35 in getting it graded. Don't forget you have to pay for shipping. You're buying insurance for the coin. You might be spending another $10 for all of that. All in all, you might spend between buying the coin, shipping it, adding insurance for protection, because the coin could get lost in shipping, and grading, you might be spending what ends up being roughly worth from a PCGS price guide perspective. And just speaking from experience of the dealer, these tend to be retail prices in these price guides. They're not necessarily the price that you'll be able to get if you were to sell the coin. Excuse me. Now, the rationale around that does change the higher the condition of the coin. As you can see, and we're looking at these two bands right here. I'm going to see if I can highlight them without changing where I am. All right, so these two bands. And really, let's ignore MS67 and 68. I mean, yes, they're out there. They're very uncommon in that condition. Let's say MS66, MS63, 64, 65, 66. You end up with many more coins in terms of population in MS63 and 64, which is why the value is lower than the higher grades of MS65 and 66. Just the population of coins in that condition drops. Okay, so what's the sweet spot? Well, it depends on the coin. You know, if we look at this 1928S that's above it, it's worth significantly more than the 1929 out of Philadelphia, which is the one that we're looking at underneath the microscope. And so I tend to base it on what is the value of the coin once it's graded based on the condition that I think it is. Now, there are plenty of times where the coin, even if it looks to be in that condition, will not get that grade. If the coin has been cleaned, PCGS will not give it a numeric grade assignment. It will declare it as potentially authenticated but cleaned, and they'll say about uncirculated condition but cleaned. They won't assign the numeric grade. Without the numeric grade, the coin has less value. Most collectors, serious collectors, don't want to buy clean coins. Some will, like if you're looking to fill in a gap, or if it's an extremely scarce or rare coin, key date, people might be willing to buy it. I've had coins that I've sent in for grading that have come back cleaned. I've still been able to sell them, but at that point you're taking a chance on whether or not you'll recoup the money that you're spending getting it graded. So then let's debate. As you can see here, I have two Mercury Dimes. One is from 1941, which is this one, and one is from 1943. Now, I am thinking, because I assessed this, and I have to be honest here, I'm not the best at this. I'm not horrible, I'm getting better, but I think this coin down here could get an MS65 full band designation. And so we'll put that underneath the microscope. We have a frame of reference, which is this MS66 coin. Let me turn over this coin to the reverse so that we could take a look at what full bands looks like. And let me zoom in. I will refocus in a moment here. I want to get closer on the microscope so everyone can see the details of it. We'll get this back in focus. This is the detail on full bands. You see the full outline, you see the line in the middle of the band. This particular band, you're looking at really clear top and bottom. But that's also a facet of getting the MS66 grade too, which is quite high. And you can get a full band designation on lower condition coins. Now, let's take a look at the ungraded MS 1943 Mercury that I have here, so that we can take a look and consider whether or not we should get it graded. Well, first of all, it has a lot of luster left. Immediately in those situations, I worry about whether it's well defined, very similarly to the coin that's been graded. But if it does get an MS65 designation and full bands, the coin is really going to be worth $60. Hi, Starika. Welcome to the live stream. We're just busy talking through whether or not we should send coins in to get graded. I'm looking at one right now. Hey, Papa Gio. Oh, I'm going to mispronounce your name. I'm sorry. Papa Giorgio. Papa Giorgio. Okay, welcome to the live stream. So we're debating about sending this particular 1943 out of Philadelphia Mercury Dime to get graded. You know, I'm assessing this coin at MS65, but I'm not a professional. I would love if this was graded MS66 full bands. I think it's got full bands, but I'm not very confident that it's going to get an MS66 grade. Now, I think it has very similar eye appeal and features as a Mercury Dime that I already have graded, MS66, which I was showing off earlier. Very similar. But even still, and we'll put this underneath this camera and bring back the ungraded one, the value in the price guide for the 1943 isn't like 3 times the value until you get to MS67, right? So if I'm spending $30 to $40 getting it graded, I'd want it to be worth 3 times the grading. Oh, looks like we got a chat bot here. And let me see if we can expel the chat bot. I'm not sure how to do that. So anyway, so based on that, I'm not sure that this coin is really worth sending out to get professionally graded. I would probably end up spending $30 on it, probably more, but I don't think I'd be able to resell it for $60, $75, $80, $90 because I think this is coming back MS65 full bands. Be a nice coin at about $60, and frankly, I'd sell it ungraded, try to get 50 for it, and I don't know if you'd even get that. You know, the market's a little bit down right now. We got another Mercury Dime that we can take a look at. This is the 1941, and let's get this underneath it. And then let's take a look at the price that the Pcgs lists. This is also very similar in terms of value. And again, the reason why we're seeing these values on these two coins being so much lower than the 1929 one that I have graded here is it just has to do with the population. There are a lot of high quality survivors from the late 40s in the Mercury Dime, but the earlier years, like pre-1930, like the 1929 that I have, you know, much fewer lower population in those higher grades, which is why the value is so much more. Again, this is another one very debatable about sending in. I don't think this is MS65. I also worry about whether or not this one was cleaned. It's got some interesting looking toning going on. I mean, there's definite luster. There is not tarnish in the letters, but there's discoloration in the field. Now, that could be natural toning, but I'm not as confident of this one. right? This one makes me a bit nervous. Again, full bands, right? It's a really well struck coin, and the toning pattern on the obverse and reverse are similar, so that might be an indication that it's toned. But I think the condition of this coin is probably more along the lines of MS63. In which case, you're looking at a coin that's worth under $30. And again, I'm not sure, frankly, it's worth sending out to get graded unless I just wanted it graded, right? I don't believe anyone would have a desire to counterfeit 1941 or 1943. They're not key dates. They're plentiful. Dimes don't have a lot of silver to begin with. There's just not a lot of inherent silver value. They're not in high demand. So the authentication piece is less of an argument. And like I said, the preservation aspect, they're plentiful. So, if you're watching this after the live stream, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think the grades of the 1943, which is right here, and the 1941 Mercury Dimes are. Do you agree with me that they would get the full band designation? Thanks, Starika. I really appreciate you reporting them. And I'm still learning how to do things like making people mods and stuff, Papa. So you have to bear with me on that. I haven't quite figured out how to do that, but we'll get there. Anyway, let me know in your comments if you agree with my assessment that these both have full bands. Tell me if you think this is MS65 or if it's higher. Tell me if you agree that this is probably closer to MS63 and whether or not you think this one has been cleaned. In the meantime, we're going to move away from the Mercury Dimes, and we're going to look at, I'll put off the Walking Liberty and Standing Liberty. I want to talk about the seated Liberty $50 from 1871 out of San Francisco. So this comes out of the old San Francisco Mint, which has since been shut down for quite a while. This is after the Civil War. So this is during the big move out west to San Francisco. Only 2.2 million of these minted. We'll take a look at the characteristics that make me think that, and I'm trying to grade conservatively. Worth $90, right? So this kind of fits a little bit of the notion of 3 times the grading cost. Now listen, as a member of PCGS, I pay the annual fee and I get 8 complimentary economy grades to use with that membership, assuming that my internet holds out. Well, that's MS67. That coin is absolutely stunning. Potentially even proof-like. You kind of see like a little bit of the frosting on the devices there. But let's get to lower grade if this application cooperates. And we'll debate it. Do we think this is fine 12, fine 15, very fine? That's really the key discussion here. I don't think it's an extremely fine condition. Let's start with fine 15. Okay, so we have a reference photo. Let's look underneath the microscope. We'll examine this coin. So very similar details on the head. The difference being around the ear. The ribbon holding the hair behind the ear in the reference photo has a little more detail, as does the hair, than this particular example. But very similar toning and wear. Very similar on the stars. We'll take a look at the shoulder and the drapery. So here, if you look at the drapery details around the bust line on my coin, you see less details than what we see in the reference photo, particularly in this area. So if we go down a little more, we do have very similar details though on those robe lines over here. And if we get to Liberty, a lot of similarities in the remaining details on this coin, although frankly the RTY on my coin has less details than the F15 example in photograde. So, and we're just only looking at the obverse. All right, so we go down to F12, and you know, the lettering around Liberty is a little more pronounced in my coin than this F12 copy, right? The I on my coin is more pronounced than here, and I believe there are more details in the robe and certainly in the head. You can see the ear on my version more clearly than you can see on the reference. So this coin is higher, I believe, than F12. It's closer to F15. Let me see if we can get to the reverse of the coin, because I think in many cases that's what's going to really drive, is this an F12 or F15 designation? And believe me, this is I think the type of thinking and comparison that a collector needs to do before sending a coin out to get graded. Okay, so here we have F15. In photograde, we're taking a look at my version. So in is more pronounced on mine than this F15. So is God we trust. The T in trust, the first T in trust is a little more pronounced in mine, but it's not significantly better. Again, we're looking at an F15 photograde reference. There are more details in the wings on this eagle, and arguably on the shield. Very similar to the shield, but more details on the wings on my example than the photograde example. We see some more details in the arrow, not significantly more. And let's see the olive branch here, or the wreath. Very similar. This one may have a little more details. But you know, this coin is at least F15, solid F15 on the reverse. I think my coin's a little higher condition than the reference example. However, on the obverse, as we saw, it was definitely better than F12, but it was not quite as sharp on the obverse as the photograde example. Okay, so what does this mean? So I think I would feel fairly confident that my coin would get an F15. There is a slight chance it could get an F20 based on the details of the reverse. I don't think so on the obverse though. Here, if we look at very fine 20, it's close, although I think my version does not have as clean a strike and has less details around the breast line, and certainly Liberty is not as strong on my version. So let's say F15. So here's the key question. Do I send this out to get graded? Let's put it on the mat here. We saw that the value, let's go to the price guide. The seated Liberty $50 is a maybe. Let's get to this next coin, which is the Standing Liberty quarter. So I have one that's graded MS66 with full head, and I have an ungraded one. The one that is graded has full luster, and the one that's not is a bit dull, right? All right, so first let's take a look at this 1929, same year as the Mercury Dime, right? Underneath the microscope so that we can see the full head and the characteristics of what PCGS says is an MS66. This is a little, accordingly, it's on the rise. So this coin, it's got great value. Worth almost 2 times the value with full head designation than without. But here, you know, I think the Standing Liberty quarters, you know, you would want to look for at least an MS60 or higher before sending it out on the majority of them. Now, the one that's not graded, let me swap them around, that I'm thinking about sending out to get graded. I don't think it's got full head. You cannot see the jawline, but you can make out the head. This coin is from 1926. I believe it's from Philadelphia. We'll take a look at the reverse separately. There's no mint mark on the obverse here. So we're looking at 1926 Philadelphia. It's got nice details. So 1926, you know, if it grades for uncirculated MS60, it'd be worth 165. If it does get the full head designation, it'd be worth 300. If it's determined that it was cleaned, and you know, even though there is tarnish haphazardly throughout, in both high spots and low spots, it is dull, the coin, right? So we see some luster on the reverse, and we see it in the low points of the devices. So if this coin was cleaned, it might have been cleaning from a long time ago, and in which case it's naturally toned but dull in luster from old cleaning, meaning it had an ample time for that cleaning to sort of not be prevalent anymore, with the exception of a few spaces. Now, and there are cases where I can easily tell if a coin has been cleaned. This one I find much more difficult to determine. I got this in a collection that I picked up. It's a nice looking coin, but if I was going to grade it, I would say this is probably going to get an AU condition, probably not a full head. Let's again compare it back with the MS66 example. Well, very similar details then on the head, so maybe there is a chance that this could get a full head designation. Leave me a comment if you think this would get a full head designation. Listen, if it got an MS60 full head, it's worth $300. Definitely worth getting graded. If it does not come back with a full head designation, but uncirculated 60, it's worth $165. Still probably worth sending it out if I spend $30 to $40 getting it graded. You know, but here if we let's look up some more details on this coin head. We're then getting a much better 66 is in the $200 to $300 range. $200 for straight MS66, $300 if it has an MS66 plus designation. That's what the 2 lines here represent. I didn't mention that earlier. So this coin is in a $200 price range. You know, Really nice looking coin. Now, if we take a look at the ungraded one from 1943, we kind of put it in the same centered location. Well, let's just kind of look around. I'm looking for signs of cleaning. There is some discoloration over here, as you can see above the hand, that makes me a little worried that this might have been cleaned and dipped. They look like there are micro abrasions in the field. What I can't tell is that just normal wear from rubbing up against other coins, which PCGS recognizes would be normal, right? That's a normal thing for coins to do. Or are those micro abrasions from someone cleaning it? Again, I have a hard time telling the difference sometimes. I'm not a professional. I don't think this coin has been cleaned. If we look at the reverse, I don't see the same kind of coloration. It still has a lot of original mint luster, which could be artificial from dipping, right? But there's enough toning in some areas that make me think this might be an original coin, much like the one that's graded. So we should take a look at photograde because, again, I don't think this is MS66. I think this is probably closer to MS64. But here, it's a 1943. And at MS64, if it did get graded that, it's worth $100. That might be worth sending out to get graded. But one grade lower at MS63, I would say it's not worth getting graded. And if it came back cleaned, it's not worth getting graded. At MS66, again, I don't think this one is MS66, but it would be worth about $200. Is it worth taking a chance on? I would like your thoughts on this. That's the key question. I already talked about the principles as to why or when to send out a coin for grading. We have the two Mercury Dimes clearly, in my mind, are not candidates because they don't have the principles. The seated Liberty $half and the standing Liberty quarter are debatable. They're borderline. If they do come back uncleaned original coins, which I think the $half will without a doubt, with the grades that I think they are, they're just at the low end of, to me, what would be worth sending out to get graded in terms of value, assuming that the quarter does not come back as clean. And it's definitely worth it if it gets the full head designation, which there is a case to be made that it could. Highly debatable. PCGS has been very conservative lately, which is, I don't think, a bad thing. So I think that means that I have to be conservative in looking at it. The Walking Liberty half, however, here, there's such a big difference between 63 and 64 that if it came back 63 or less, it's just not worth sending out. And I'm not sure the gamble is worth it. Mainly because the population of coins in MS63 and 64 for the 1943 Walking Liberty half is plentiful. There are a lot of examples out there. Whereas I think as it relates to the seated Liberty $half and the standing Liberty quarter, less of a population available, possibly higher demand, competing for less coins in these grades. So what I'm concluding is that of the 5 coins that I have here, and let me get them centered a bit so it's easier to see. Of these 5 coins, still haven't gotten it centered. Sorry, trying to multitask here on 2 different screens. Probably multi-screen challenged. There we go. So these 5 coins here, I think these 2 probably worth sending out. These 3 probably not, based on the principles that I outlined. Very curious as to what everyone what the viewers think. Listen, if you're watching this live stream after the fact, meaning it's not during the stream itself, thank you for watching. I really appreciate you stopping by, checking out the videos. Please give me a like. Leave me a comment on your thoughts. Please subscribe, support my channel. Appreciate the support. We're going to wrap this up right now, and we're going to wrap it up by saying, collectors, thanks for watching, and as always, happy collecting. Have a good night.